Cashflow Diary Podcast, Episode 14.
Congratulations, you showed up. Give yourself a high five in celebration of your success. Welcome to the Cashflow Diary, where new and experienced investors come to take confident action towards their goals. Your host is a family man, a real estate entrepreneur, investor, coach, and instructor. As a master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's Cashflow 101 game, he's inspired many to begin their journey into creating cash flow for themselves and their family. And now, here he is to offer you the tools required to earn the income desired. Your cash flow coach, Jay Massey.
Welcome. Glad that you're here. We are doing another episode of the CashFlowDiary.com podcast. If you have not already been over to the website, CashFlowDiary.com, to pick up your free ebook, make sure that you do get over there. Investing Made Easier Wholesaling is the current ebook that is up there for you. We've been doing webinars associated with the ebook to help answer any additional questions that you may have, because it's not just really an ebook. It's more of a manual, if you will, step-by-step procedure of what it is that you and I need to do to go out there and earn money as wholesalers. And that's why I wanted to create it, is because I want you to go out there and be able to earn some money. So if you've been participating in the webinars, great, glad that you're there. If not, make sure that you get back over to the website and participate in the webinars while you still can. So that's really good. Again, it's cashflowdiary.com. Just put your email in the box and you'll get the ebook almost immediately. Also, if this is your first time joining us, feel free to go over to the first episode, listen to the entire episode to understand the genesis of this podcast, the cashflowdiary.com website, etc., so that you can understand a little bit more about me if you actually care about stuff like that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start with our cash flow quote. This one comes to us from a Mr. Charles Swindoll. You may also know him as Charles Roselle or Chuck Swindoll. Charles Roselle Chuck Swindoll. That's the full name that I have there. Anyway, here's the quote. A family is a place where principles are hammered and honed on the anvil of everyday living. I'll say that again. A family is a place where principles are hammered and honed on the anvil of everyday living. One of the things that it's important to me anyway is the principles that, a person lives by. And you can often tell those principles by those that they hang around with, and more importantly, what him or his family or her family or whatever their friends believe, because it's what they're doing on a daily basis. And my reason for even sharing or saying that is because I've got a bit of a surprise for you on this particular episode that I want you to listen to as we go through. And I want you to see for yourself if you can learn something from the different and unique perspectives that you'll be able to hear from on the subjects of cash flow, entrepreneurship, and the Cashflow 101 board game. Many of you know that the Cashflow 101 board game is a very important piece of, business, and it's a very important piece of your financial intelligence. It's something all of us should be doing on a regular basis. And the same thing with studying cash flow. When I say cash flow, think passive income. And there are 3 types of income. And if you missed that episode, feel free to go back where we talk about that. And the whole concepts and the way of thinking behind business ownership. You probably have noticed that a business owner does not think the same way as an employee, does not think the same way as a self-employed or small business owner. And those things mean different things to different people. They have different outcomes, therefore different realities that they're all looking to achieve, etc. So here's what I've done. I've asked 2 individuals who are very important to me the same question, why is cash flow, entrepreneurship, and the Cashflow 101 game important to them? What have they seen in terms of effects of the game, and how has it shaped or changed their viewpoint of life and those types of things? And I want to share this information with you because occasionally we can get jaded and or forget what we're doing actually makes a difference to someone other than ourselves. So in the previous episodes, you've been listening to me talk to, crowds live, etc. And that's fun. And you got to know a little bit more techniques and strategies and thought processes. Hopefully you're beginning to adopt them. That's good. But now what I want you to do is that I want you to listen to two very important people. First up, we have is my wife, and then we will have my daughter, and you'll be able to hear both of them in terms of what they think about cash flow, entrepreneurship, and the Cashflow 101 board game.
I would say that cash flow and passive income is important because it means that we have money coming in without having to work over and over and over again for it. It means that we can take time off with our family without having to worry about whether or not income is coming in. And it means that we have made our money work for us as opposed to us working for our money. I would say that entrepreneurship is important to our family because in the Bible, it talks about entrepreneurs as being those who would serve before kings. It talks about entrepreneurs as the Proverbs 31 woman. She was an entrepreneur. She had her own business. And in this day and age where, some are led to believe that the Bible demeans women, I would say that the Bible actually lifts up women who are entrepreneurs and business owners and women who are able to generate income on their own without having to rely on a husband or a man, even though in that culture, in that day and age, it seemed as though they would have to do that. But God definitely promotes women as entrepreneurs, and it's important to this family because we have 3 girls, not including myself, being a woman, and knowing that, God forbid, if anything were to happen to my husband, I would know how to bring in an income without necessarily having to go back to work and find a 9-to-5 job. The Cashflow 101 game was important to me because it really freed my mind. I was in the path of go to school, get a good job, go to school, get a good education, get a good job. And what I found out 12 years as a recruiter were many things. I found out that just because you have a good education doesn't necessarily mean that you have the skills to perform the job necessary. What a good education also doesn't teach are social skills. Social skills are very, very important as far as where you're going to work, not only as an entrepreneur, but if you do choose to have a W-4 position. Let's face it, people like working with people that they like, people that are able to get along with others, people that have good social skills. And the Cashflow 101 game is important because it freed me from thinking that going to get a W-4 job was the only way to generate an income. It helped me understand that I was timid in regards to taking risks. It taught me that I didn't really know what to do with the money that I had. It taught me different ways to help my money work for me again, instead of me working for my money. I was the kind of person that if I got money, I would squirrel it away in a bank. Now, in the 80s and 90s, when interest rates were at 13%, that was a great idea. But now when they're less than, 1%, if you even get anything, it doesn't seem like a good idea. So we have to figure out other ways, again, like the Bible said, instead of burying our money in the ground and being fearful. Cashflow 101 taught me how to fulfill that Bible scripture that talks about if God gives you 5 talents, you go out and make 5 more. And if he gives you 10, you go out and make 10 more. And I never really understood what that meant until I started playing this game. And it's important because it will provide a way for myself as well as for my kids to take risks with money without a ton of consequences. Now, you get emotional playing this game, but that's not a life-threatening consequence. But yeah, it really freed my mind in what money can do for me and my family.
Now, what I want you to do is talk about all the stuff we went through and how those 3 concepts together made a difference for you. Not me, but you, or what you saw from your perspective with these 3 concepts.
In terms of when going all the way back.
Well, yeah. Remember, Ayanna had the same question, so I'm just saying, just go. Yeah, I know, right?
I would have to say, going through what we went through, I now understand why it's important to have a plan B, why it's important to make sure that we have money coming in even when we're not able to work. While I was pregnant, it was absolutely impossible for me to work for at least the first trimester, and definitely not in the last trimester, because I was on bed rest. And when you don't have an income coming in, it severely impacts your quality of life. It definitely impacted my quality of life. I like to eat, and I would have to say it. Passive income allowed me to be a stay-at-home mom, because the money was coming in. I didn't have to go work for the paycheck. I could stay at home with, at that time, our 2 kids. And entrepreneurship definitely played a factor, because when times were tough, the Cashflow 101 game taught us, instead of sitting back and waiting for someone else to provide a paycheck, you go out and make your own paycheck. And I did mystery shopping. I wrote resumes. I, sold things on Craigslist. It didn't stop me. And, being able to provide for my family in that way was very empowering. I mean, it meant that I didn't have to be afraid of losing my income. It meant if we were ever in the situation again where we were to lose our house, well, first of all, I know that God would take care of us, but I also know that God gave me talents that I can use to take care of my family. And the board game allowed me to do that without fear. It just propelled me in the right direction. 3 toddlers later, I was able to start my own business with the Pampered Chef and be able to just provide income when, again, we had a shortfall in the budget. And again, I was not afraid to do what I needed to do to take care of my family. And it's all because of cash flow. It's all because of what I learned, the skills that I learned, but more importantly, the emotional, I don't even know how to say it. Not having that fear, having taken risks in the game and being able to generate income, it's almost as if I did it in real life. And so when it really did happen in real life and I needed to use those skills, I needed to fall back on what I had learned, I was able to do it without missing a beat. And it was so important for me. It's so important for my kids to see me being able to do that. They now recognize when the Pampered Chef boxes come to the door. They know when I put on my Pampered Chef quote unquote uniform and my apron, they know mommy's going out to do her business and mommy's going out to serve people and help people understand that they don't have to be trapped in their day-to-day jobs. They don't have to sit back and let life quote unquote happen to them. They can go out and generate an income and learn how to do this for their own family. And we just continue to invite people into our home, into our lives, to learn these skills, to learn Cashflow 101, to learn what entrepreneurship means. Because the way that this country is going, I mean, I would say in 2007, when I was still doing recruiting, I could see the writing on the wall. We worked with manufacturing companies and housing project companies, and they were drying up left and right. And when loan officers and, mortgage people started coming into my office, I told them, I said, look, you're not going to be making the same amount of money that you've been making, these past few years. And they would get mad at me. They would storm out of my office and, they would get upset with me because I wasn't able to find them a job where they can earn 6 figures. And, I said, look, it's all in where manufacturing is going. It's all in, where these companies are shutting down, the writing's on the wall. And sure enough, within the next few years, there was famine. And, I tried my best to help people understand these concepts of cash flow and passive income and entrepreneurship. And, unfortunately, in those first couple of years, they weren't having it. But as time went on, they started understanding, okay, it's not changing. And so we were able to help them with other ways of finding income for themselves, finding income for their families. And now people are open to listening. I think the way that this country is going, it's going to be the entrepreneurs that are going to run the world, at least in the next 10 to 20 years. It's not going to be, the big business anymore. It's going to be the small guy. And hopefully we'll be able to bring this country back to where I believe it should be. And God willing, we'll all have a mind shift and a lifestyle shift. And, we'll start understanding what's important, because it really isn't about the money. It's about the skills. It's about the character that you build when you've hit the bottom, when you have to build from nothing, when you have to go out and be friendly to people. You have to build relationships with people, because I think in the last 40 years, you didn't really have to build relationships with people. You went to work and you worked in a cubicle and you shut yourself off from the world and you just collected your paycheck. But now you actually have to be liked and you actually have to know what you're doing. You have to know what you're talking about. You have to provide a skill that no one else has. You have to work harder than the next guy. So I think it's really going to be an interesting next 10 to 20 years in what we're seeing as far as entrepreneurship, and definitely people that are interested in learning how to generate passive income, how to learn the game of Cashflow 101, and, just introduce that to their families. The first time I met Robert Kiyosaki, I thought he was a jerk. The first time I heard him speak, I thought he was an even bigger jerk, because he was very straightforward, very honest, very brash. And I don't even know if that's a word, but he spoke his mind, and he really didn't care what anybody thought about what he spoke. And that was so different than the world that I was used to living in. We live in a very politically correct world. And especially as a recruiter in HR, you have to mind your P's and Q's. You have to kind of walk on eggshells. You can't say the things that you really want to say in that world. And so when I met him, it rocked my world. But as I got to know him, as I got to know Kim, I started understanding why he spoke the way he spoke, why he communicated the way that he communicated. And it was to get our attention, because a lot of us are floating in a dream world. We think that things are, America is and don't get me wrong, America is still a great land of opportunity. But a lot of us have grown up being coddled, and a lot of us have grown up hearing, oh, you're special, you're the best, and you're great, without really having to earn it. And that has damaged us. And what Robert is trying to do, and what he is trying to help us wake out of, is this slumber that we're in, and trying to help us understand that if we don't do something drastic and radical with our financial pictures, we're going to drown. We're going to starve to death, and it's going to be a matter of only the strong will survive. And the sad thing is that we are demonizing people who are making money for the simple fact that we don't understand how they're doing it. And we're afraid of that. And I generalize, but we tend to think of those people as evil. They're not evil. They just know how it's done. And we're offering the opportunity to help people know how that's done. And Robert Kiyosaki and Kim Kiyosaki are offering the opportunity for us to understand how that's done. And another part of that is he's not holding back. He's not pulling any punches, because we have to hear the truth in a radical way sometimes for us to be shaken out of our comfort zone, for us to understand that something drastic needs to be done in our lives. And it was so important for me to understand what he's saying. Now, is he going to win any prizes for what he's doing? Probably not until long after he's dead. I don't think anyone's going to catch on to what he's really doing and the incredible impact of what he's doing. It hasn't affected us yet. It hasn't, like we had the Industrial Revolution and we're having the technology revolution. I think we're going to have an entrepreneurship revolution in the next, 10 to 20 years. And that's something that, you don't get a handshake and a smile for when you're going through it. You get it afterwards, but that's what's happening. So I appreciate the fact that he is who he is. I am so grateful to have met him, so grateful to have had an opportunity to speak in front of an audience who was there to listen to him, and very grateful for Kim helping me out, because I was the kind of person that I like to line my ducks all up in a row and everything had to be perfect. In other words, I was scared to death to take a risk. Even though I had spent the last 10 years learning Cashflow 101, I still was tentative about applying it to my own life in such a drastic way. So when she asked me why I wanted to wait to start my Pampered Chef business, I told her, well, it just had to be the right time. My kids had to be in the right place, and, so on and so forth, excuse after excuse. And she just looked at me and said, the time is now. Your kids need to see you going through this. They need to see you at the bottom. They need to see you rising to the top. That's how they're going to learn. That's how they're going to be inspired. And whatever you have to do to make it happen, just do it. Just take the first step. And sure enough, as soon as I got back home from meeting her and talking to her, I started my Pampered Chef business and have not looked back since. I mean, of course, there's going to be ups and downs, but the ups far outweigh the downs, and the character building and the things that I am learning about myself and the way that I am having to fight for certain things and make certain things happen. It is incredibly empowering. It is incredibly, it's great for my confidence. And I hope and pray that other people are able and willing to do the same and take risks and just be willing to, like they do in the military, be willing to be broken down so that you can be built back up.
Okay. So now the question becomes, now that you've heard some things, what is it that you just listened to that you think you can implement to be able to move at the speed of instruction? There were some specific directions. I mean, what is it that has been holding you back? What is it that you think you've been afraid of recently that you haven't taken action on? Here's a hint. It's usually something that you feel like you're still trying to prepare for. Like you heard my wife say more than once, she was waiting for the stars to line up. So here's a good question for you. Imagine, if you will, that you were on your way to the store to pick up groceries or what have you. And imagine that you were driving. But you said, you know what? I'm not going to go to the grocery store to pick up food that you need, mind you got to eat. So food that you need. You're not going to go to the grocery store until all the lights are green. When would you actually get to the grocery store? So here's my bit of advice. Write the offer. Write it today. Write it right now. Because guess what? Your offer shouldn't be perfect. An offer is an invitation for a conversation. That is it. That is all it is. So the essence of what you need to do is to write an offer. I don't care on what type of property. It doesn't matter. The experience of doing it going through that, you will learn so many more things than I could ever tell you. That that's what's going to change you, is taking that action, knowing that you don't know, but that's okay. Remember, I've said it before and I say it again. You can't learn and look good at the same time. It's not possible. And we must release our addiction, I dare say, to looking good so much so that we don't, because we have this addiction. There's no other way to put it. It's just an addiction to looking good, and therefore we don't take action. Let that go. And you can let that go today by writing on a piece of paper, telling your friends that, you know what, within the next 7 days, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write at least one offer on a piece of real estate, period. And then ask them to follow up with you in 7 days to make sure that you've done it. I promise you that will get you way more action and results further down this road. And these podcasts and the information and everything that we're providing will mean more to you once you've done that. So now that you've heard from my wife, I want you to also hear from my eldest daughter, because she's going to share with you a little bit about, what she's seen us go through and all this other stuff, what it means to her at her young age. Now, mind you, she hasn't graduated from high school yet. So let me ask you this question. What difference would it have made in you or your kids had they had exposure to what it is that you're being exposed to now before they graduated high school? I don't know. I didn't get that opportunity. She's had that opportunity since the age of 9. She's now 16. And, just listen and see what it is that you can learn. Yes, even from a 16-year-old who might have we'll call it, different perspective on life than you or I. Here we go.
I think cash flow is important because it's it's a good way to teach a lot of people with different learning abilities a simple concept. that doesn't like a concept that doesn't have to be complicated. People think that business is something that is not made for everybody or something that only certain people can do. But with this game, it's only a game in that sense where people can come in and feel like they're only playing a game when they're learning things consciously and subconsciously. So it's it yeah, so it's kind of doing two things at once. But cash flow really, yeah, I don't know, it um it has a good, I don't know, it allows you to experience other people's techniques and how they would deal with finances and things in business. And you get to meet other people around you at your table, so you can learn to work with them and do business with them so that you can benefit yourself too. So yeah. Entrepreneurship, I think entrepreneurship is important it's important for me because it gives me good practice outside of school, with especially, but also dealing with my school friends, because I can come in and offer them a product that, say, they may want or may not think that they want. But for me, it gives me practice to tell them why they should buy this product or buy whatever product that I'm trying to sell to them. And it's a good what's the word, like, good experience, so that when I do try to go out there in the real world, then I can have something to start off from, like work my way up from this little business of lollipops or crocheting my hats, and then I could build up maybe to the real estate that I want to do in the future. Well, I think cash flow in general is important because it allows people to really take control of their life and in control of what they want to do with their future in general, because it's their future. And when they were little, they planned out what they wanted to do, what they wanted to be, and why should anybody else stop them? They didn't let people stop them before when they were younger, so why is it that when they get in the real world, all of a sudden, like, their job and their boss all of a sudden gets in the way of what they wanted to do in the first place? So cash flow allows you to be able to take control of the money that was going to go into your dream in the first place and put it into your real life in real situations right now. Let's see. Well, all of these things put together has really helped our family because from a couple years ago, I don't know how long it was, but we were really at a low point in our family. We didn't know where we were going to go, where we were going to live, how we were going to eat, and it was really stressful, especially as, the oldest child. I'm seeing everything going on and there's nothing I can really do. But with all the cash flow in the game, it came into our life and it really changed everything around. We were able to get ourselves off the ground, but by ourselves. We didn't need a job from a boss or somebody else to tell us how to get ourselves to the place that we are right now, and I really appreciate that we get to have things like this, that can show us how to take care of ourselves independently, so that and for me, like, I'm able to see this from my parents, so that now I know what to do so that I don't get stuck into the rat race, or quote unquote, I guess. And so I could go straight from, like, even high school right now and go into the real estate market or get my own cash flow and get my own life started. And my own dreams are even closer because I don't have that job or that boss and the other in between things that would stop me from getting to where I want to go. So, yeah.
One of the things I absolutely enjoy about being able to transact real estate in multiple different states in many different ways, and now having helped a number of other people do the same, is knowing that, what you're doing matters. More importantly, that you make a difference. And even more importantly than that, we often wonder, am I making an impact? And Here's the answer to that question. You are. Every one of us are making an impact on every person that we see every day. The only question is, are we impacting them for their betterment, or do they get worse because they know us? Until next time.
Thank you for investing your time with Jay Massey and the Cashflow Diary. When you have a moment, please visit iTunes and leave a positive comment about the show. And go now to our website, CashFlowDiary.com, to take advantage of our free business building course, Cashflow Foundation. Gain the knowledge, understanding, and skill that will teach you how to never need a job again. Until next time.